Lesson: Consideration in contracts. Consideration in contract law serves as a fundamental component in validating agreements between parties. It is the benefit or detriment negotiated between parties, essential for the formation of a legally binding contract. The doctrine of consideration requires that something of value be exchanged to make a contract enforceable, distinguishing mere gifts from enforceable agreements. This lesson delves into the intricacies of consideration, providing actionable insights and practical frameworks to address real-world challenges and enhance proficiency in contract formation. At its core, consideration is the price one party pays for the promise of the other. This price can manifest as a right, interest, profit, or benefit accruing to one party, or a forbearance, detriment, loss, or responsibility undertaken by the other. This mutual exchange is critical as it underlines the reciprocal nature of contractual obligations. A practical framework for understanding consideration involves evaluating whether the promise induces a party to incur a detriment or confers a benefit on the other party. For instance, consider a scenario where a person promises to pay $500 for a painting. The payment constitutes consideration for the promise to deliver the painting, while the painting itself serves as consideration for the payment. A crucial aspect of consideration is its sufficiency and adequacy. Consideration must be sufficient, meaning it must hold some legal value, but it need not be adequate, implying it does not need to be equivalent in value to what is received in return. This principle allows parties to freely negotiate their terms without judicial intervention concerning the fairness of the agreed-upon exchange. For example, a contract to sell a car for $1 is enforceable as long as the $1 is deemed sufficient consideration, regardless of the car's market value. However, professionals must ensure that the sufficiency of consideration is not mistaken for nominal or sham consideration, which courts might disregard. Challenges often arise when determining the validity of consideration in pre-existing duty cases. If a party promises to perform an obligation they are already legally bound to do, this generally does not constitute valid consideration. A practical approach to addressing this challenge is to analyze whether the promisor has undertaken any additional obligations or provided extra benefits beyond the original agreement. For example, if a contractor agrees to complete additional work not originally contemplated under a contract, the extra work constitutes valid consideration for any additional payment promised by the other party. Consideration can also take the form of forbearance, where a party refrains from exercising a legal right. This approach presents a practical tool for negotiating settlements or resolving disputes. In Hamer v. Sidway, the court upheld the uncle's promise to pay his nephew for refraining from drinking, smoking, and gambling, recognizing the nephew's forbearance as valid consideration. This case underscores the value of forbearance in contract formation, encouraging professionals to consider the strategic use of concessions and compromises as valid consideration in negotiations. The concept of past consideration, traditionally regarded as invalid, poses another challenge. Past consideration refers to an act performed before a promise is made and thus cannot constitute consideration for that promise. However, exceptions exist where past consideration can be valid if it was rendered at the request of the promisor and with an understanding that payment would be made. An actionable strategy is to ensure that any past actions anticipated as consideration are explicitly acknowledged in subsequent agreements. For example, if a consultant provides services with the understanding that they will be compensated later, a written acknowledgement in the subsequent agreement can solidify the consideration's validity. Modern contract law introduces the doctrine of promissory estoppel, which can enforce promises even in the absence of consideration under specific circumstances. Promissory estoppel applies when a promisor makes a promise that the promisee relies on to their detriment, and it would be unjust not to enforce the promise. This doctrine serves as a practical tool in situations where traditional consideration is absent, yet the promisee has incurred a significant detriment. In such cases, professionals should meticulously document the reliance and detriment experienced by the promisee to provide compelling evidence for invoking promissory estoppel. Statistics reflect the critical role of consideration in contract disputes. According to a study by the American Bar Association, issues related to consideration are among the most common grounds for contract litigation, accounting for approximately 22% of all contract disputes. This statistic underscores the importance of ensuring that consideration is properly addressed in contract formation to mitigate potential legal challenges. Case studies further illustrate the practical application of consideration in contracts. In Williams v. Rafi Bruz and Nichols Ltd., the court recognized that a promise to pay extra for completing work on time was enforceable due to the promisor's practical benefit of avoiding penalties for late completion Ltd., 1991. This case highlights the importance of identifying practical benefits as valid consideration, even in situations involving pre-existing duties. Professionals can leverage this understanding by ensuring that any modifications to contractual obligations are supported by clear, practical benefits to avoid disputes over consideration validity. In conclusion, mastering the concept of consideration is pivotal for professionals engaged in contract formation. By understanding its nuances, including sufficiency, adequacy, pre-existing duties, forbearance, past consideration, and the role of promissory estoppel, professionals can craft agreements that withstand legal scrutiny. Practical tools such as evaluating additional obligations, strategically using forbearance, acknowledging past consideration, and documenting reliance on promises offer actionable insights for addressing real-world challenges. As demonstrated through case studies and statistics, a thorough understanding of consideration is essential for minimizing contract disputes and enhancing proficiency in contract law. By applying these frameworks and strategies, professionals can effectively navigate the complexities of consideration, ensuring the enforceability and integrity of contractual agreements. C.